Everyone, welcome to the 11th session of the HIV Awareness, Prevention and the Education Project in Pakistan, designed and led by Apna Merit HIV Committee. This project aims to reduce HIV stigma, increase HIV awareness and knowledge about the disease among the healthcare providers communities in Pakistan, using educational and research tools. Please note, this is a volunteer academic activity and all views expressed are speakers' own views and do not represent any institution. Our moderators for today's session are Dr. Saima Abbas and Dr. Hamad Ali. They will be joined by Dr. Nida during the discussion session. Please note, both Dr. Hamad Ali and Dr. Nida Arif are traveling today, so they will be joining using their cell phones, and their availability depends on Wi-Fi available to them. So I apologize if there's any interruption because of that. Our main moderator is Dr. Saima Abbas. She is an infectious disease physician located in Florida, USA. She graduated from Fatima Jinnah Medical College and completed her internal medicine and infectious disease fellowship at the University of Toledo, Ohio, USA. She is the co-chair of the Apna Merit HIV Committee. Dr. Hamad Ali is a medical epidemiologist currently working in the USA. He did his MBBS from King Edward Medical College and his PhD from the University of New South Wales in Australia. From last many years, his work has been focused on HIV in developing countries. In 2019, he worked as a part of the WHO team that investigated and responded to the HIV outbreak in children in Larkana. I just want to say there is one change in the line of speakers today. Dr. Parveen Azam Khan cannot join us due to some personal reasons. So she asked Mr. Azazuddin to represent those foundations. Thanks, Mr. Azazuddin, and best wishes to you, Dr. Parveen Azam Khan. So here you go, Dr. Saima Abbas.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome and Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Let me share my screen. Okay, can everybody see that?
Perfect, Dr. Saida.
So this is the webinar 11, HIV in Key Populations, Part 2. So those of you who were here with us in Part 1, basically we focused on the transgender, MSMs and female sex workers, and Dr. Umair had presented a very thorough presentation on the situation in Pakistan, but the largest of the key populations is the intravenous drug users. So we decided to dedicate a whole session, a whole webinar to this key population, which is causing the highest increase as far as key populations are concerned in the spread and transmission of HIV. So before I start, these are some of the questions which I gathered from the previous webinar, and I had, I would call them the objective of this webinar. And basically the goal was that while we have our speakers and panelists, we attempt to answer these questions. So what is the burden of IV drug users in the area that you are overseeing? And is there any surveillance of this population? Are the numbers increasing and why? And what are the causes of underreporting? Secondly, because this is transmitted through needles, we have pathogens like Hep B or Hep C. What is the incidence of HIV among IV drug users and the incidence of co-infection with Hep B or Hep C? Is routine screening for HIV available? If yes, how often and what are the challenges? Now, this would be focused on IV drug users. Once diagnosed to be positive, are patients willing to get treated, and is any counseling available? Nearest ART center caring for HIV patients, any challenges there? Are ART centers equipped with the knowledge to handle new patients diagnosed with HIV? And if patients are lost to follow-up, is there any way to get them treatment? Are they followed by the health department? Is there any working framework of contact tracing their sexual partners or spouses? What strategies have been successful or have failed? For example, the needle exchange program, disposable or auto-destruct syringes. So these are some of the questions to lay out what are the answers that we are looking for. Now, before we start, I would just like to share that as an infectious disease physician, these are the most difficult patients to deal with in the hospital. And, you know, their own addiction stands in their way, and they are the ones who will leave against medical advice right in the middle of the treatment. And we see a lot of stigma associated, especially they are uninsured and the most marginalized, mostly homeless as well. So you can imagine that you have a key population which is highly marginalized and stigmatized. And on top of that, you add the diagnosis of HIV, which makes it very difficult to access, retain them in care. And I hope that we have a good discussion on this very key and difficult population. So I am very excited to share our first speaker from Balochistan, Dr. Khudadad Usmani. He is currently in charge and the ART physician of the first HIV/AIDS treatment center in the capital city of Balochistan, established in 2005. Dr. Khudadad completed his MBBS in Pakistan and also completed an STD/AIDS diploma from Thailand. He also served as ex-junior registrar in medicine and gastroenterology department at the BMC Teaching Hospital in Quetta, Balochistan. The ART center that he supervises provides free ART and other HIV care services all over the largest province land-wise, with scattered population in far-flung areas which are unfortunately not connected to the capital city with proper roads. Beside local patients, this HIV centers also caters to HIV cases diagnosed in other provinces, as well as from our neighbor, Afghanistan, especially Afghan refugees. So thank you, Dr. Usmani, and most welcome.
Hello. Assalamualaikum. Hello. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
My voice is clear now. Hello. आवाज आ रही है मेरी?
जी थोड़ी सी
Hello.
थोड़ा सा कनेक्शन वीक लग रहा है.
Hello.
We can hear you.
डॉक्टर खान, मे बी अगर आप अपना वीडियो ऑफ करें तो शायद कनेक्टिविटी में इम्प्रूव. थैंक यू.
Hello. Okay. Hello.
अभी भी वॉइस काफी ब्रेक कर रही है आपकी.
आई थिंक अगर आप माइक्रोफोन के बगैर अगर बोलें तो मेरे ख्याल में बेहतर होगा. अगर आप यूज कर रहे हैं हेडफोन या माइक्रोफोन तो वो उतार दें आप.
बगैर माइक्रोफोन है. अभी आवाज आ रही है?
डिस्टॉर्शन है आवाज में ना बहुत ज्यादा. वी कांट अंडरस्टैंड.
अभी तो बिल्कुल क्लियर थी. अभी टाइमिंग में
अगर आप विदाउट हेडफोन यूज करें तो हेडफोन लगा के आप चेक कर लें, शायद कुछ बेहतर हो जाए.
चल रही है.
We apologize, everyone. These are technical glitches we don't have control over.
Hello. 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 हेलो.
जी अभी भी क्लियर नहीं आ रही आपकी आवाज में.
बिल्कुल क्लियर थी. अभी within few
आप दोबारा ज्वाइन कर लें काइंडली. एक दफा क्विट करके ना आप दोबारा ज्वाइन कर लें, मे बी कुछ बेटर हो जाए. वी विल वेट फॉर 2 minutes.
कर लेते हैं.
जी दोबारा कर लें. थैंक यू.
I mean, meanwhile we are waiting, you want to go over what we are doing in part 2 again? Because maybe some of our participants missed it.
Sure, Fiza.
Especially repeating part 1, what we did last month actually.
Okay, so when we decided to do the HIV in key populations, when we were having our own meeting, we realized that the IV drug users really were the largest percentage, and the panelists and the speakers that we had, because of the time limit, we could only accommodate, we had to divide them into 2 parts. So Dr. Omer was the main speaker last webinar number 10, and he presented the multiple challenges and especially the underreporting of these key populations and how they are difficult to access, retain in care, and they are lost to follow up. And then we had Mr. Rahil Bakar, who presented a very important concept that how these key populations, because of the stigma, don't trust any outsiders, especially the transgender community, the female sex workers, and the male sex workers. And so he presented one of the projects that they had done on the transgender community, which was very eye-opening, that how they have a language of their own, and giving them any HIV awareness truly needs to be going through a channel which they will accept and appreciate. We had Ms. Moon Ali, who represented the transgender community and is the head of the Khaja.
Do you hear? Excuse me, madam.
Yeah,
Do you
much
hear
better.
now?
Much better. Chale.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can start. Good. Thank you,
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I am Dr. Hudadat Khan, art physician and HIV/AIDS in charge of the HIV/AIDS care, support and treatment center at BMCH Hospital, Quetta. Is Dr. Saima already introduced me with this profile. Thank you very much, Madam, Dr. Fiza, Dr. Saima, and other panelists and guests. I am now sharing my slides with the title of HIV/AIDS and IDU in Balochistan. As all you people know that area-wise, Balochistan is the largest one of the 4 provinces. The total covered area of Balochistan is 3,40,190 square kilometers. And there are very sparse and very underdeveloped areas far apart from each other, very small scattered up population. After few cities, there are only sparse population here and there. The population is interestingly the lowest one as compared to area-wise. That is 12.34 million according to the 2017 census. Only 12.34 million. And we have 7 divisions area-wise. The most biggest one is Kalar division, Mokran, Nasirabad, Quetta, Sibbi, Job, and Rakshan. And we will focus on Quetta division and Mokran division. All these 7 divisions have 35 districts. Next slide. Next slide. Yes. We will focus our discussion on Quetta, the capital city of Balochistan, and the biggest city of Balochistan, situated here where my cursor is. And at the lowest point, the area of Kech. Here is the city of Turbat situated near the coastal line, coastal belt of Balochistan. And here is the biggest city, Karachi, situated in the Sindh province. And we have this much area and only 2 centers are working, one in Quetta and one here in Turbat, Kech region. As Madam has introduced, that very first HIV/AIDS center was established in Quetta in the year 2002 with the initiative of 5 by 5, I think 5 million people's free of cost treatment by the year 2005 initiative, under the initiative of 5 million people will get free of cost treatment up to the year or at the start of the year 2005. After this initiative, 4 initial HIV/AIDS treatment centers were established. One in Peshawar, the capital city of KPK, one in Karachi, one in Quetta, Balochistan, and one in Punjab, Lahore, and one in Islamabad, the capital city of Pakistan. All these 5 started the functioning after the doctors and nurses got basic training from India and Thailand. And afterwards, we started registration. Next slide. In the first month of 2006, the year it was established, the center was established in 2005. Just after the end of 2005, we have started registration of new cases, which were put on ARVs under my supervision. Very first patient was sent to PIMS hospital initially when I was in Bangkok, Thailand, on my basic training before assumption of charge of HIV/AIDS treatment art physician. So that patient is still alive and healthy under our supervision, that young man. And now we have in our center nearly 1,500 cases we have registered yet till now. And I will briefly present few slides, and afterwards we will come to our basic topic of IDU. I think first, the Dostan Center was established in the year. Second center was established in the city of Kech Makran, Turbat, which I have mentioned in the map. In the year 2013, I think, I am not sure about the year of establishment, but it is nearly in the year 2013. Our center was established in the 2005, and Turbat Center was established in the year 2013. These centers are providing treatment facilities, provision of ART to all registered cases free of cost, including IDUs, without any discrimination, without any gender discrimination or any key population discrimination. We are committed to provide each and every service to each and every registered case equally, including IDUs. Other facilities include HIV testing and counseling, TB screening, OI prophylaxis, treatment, and other medicines are available free of cost till date. For the last 15 years, all services are provided free of cost, uninterrupted, including antiretroviral therapy. Next slide, please. This is the data for our basic information. ART Center BMC registered cases and IDUs, MIS NSCP data, which we send on monthly basis. We have total registered patients till October 2021. Total male cases are 1,031 and females are 291. TGs are only 15 till date. Children are 58. Total IDUs, total registered patients till October 2021 are 1,395. Total on ARVs. Out of these patients, like males, out of males 1,031, our patients, male patients on ART are 8,056, which is the 71% coverage out of males. And 2,091 female registered cases, we have put 2,077 females on antiretrovirals. And the coverage is 95% in this female population, general female population. TGs have only 1%, and out of 15 TGs, we have 13 on antiretrovirals. And our children 58 and 48 are on antiretrovirals. When we see in percentage, 83% of our male patients are on ARVs, 95% of our females are on our ARVs. TGs, small number, but they are 86% out of 13 cases. They are 86% on ARVs, and 82% children are on ARVs. Total average is 85.59% out of total registered cases. But if we remove or omit our expired cases, or initially in first few years, there was protocol, you know, that until CD4 drops up to 200, we were not able to start antiretrovirals. Later on, 350 was the cutoff to start ARVs. And afterwards, 500 CD4 count was to start ARVs. And afterwards, it was in the protocols that you treat all cases irrespective of CD4 count. And preference should be given to stage 3 and 4 patients if ARV provision is a problem. But we don't have any ARV provision problem yet due to smaller number. And that's why the ratio of percentage of patients on ARVs are falling on 85% due to that population which is included in this figure, initial phase. But if we start our figures and data from 2010 onwards, our data will be definitely above 90%. Now we are committed and we have our services in a standard that within few days we start ARVs to all registered cases until unless there is no any reason to defer, like TB meningitis or pulmonary TB to wait for few weeks to few months. Otherwise, we do our baseline tests and CD4 count, TB screening and other things, and psychological assessment and family support. We start within few days ARVs to each and every person, including injecting drug users. But the very problematic thing is the injecting drug users antiretroviral start. This is a very controversial topic, and many physicians, many ARV physicians especially, they don't agree for this to start as per protocols to what we say that they have the right to be started or to be put on ARVs. But physicians, clinicians here, they have a lot of serious reservations that injecting drug users must not be started, and there must not be a hurry for them until unless they have family support, they have peer support, they have NGO support, or physically and mentally they are fit to start antiretrovirals. As you said, Dr. Saima, that in future there will be a lot of problem for them. Adherence issue, early treatment failure, and loss to follow-ups will be the main issue when we start early antiretrovirals in this group. But anyhow, we are follow the guidelines, and nowadays guidelines are that we may not wait for detox and rehab. We have to start when we register our injecting drug user. But still we have reservations, a lot of reservations, that these patients must not be put on ART early without checking all these parameters. And I'm coming back to my slide. Number of patients received ART in past 6 months. This is the indicator of MIS NSCP, Global Fund indicator, to record number of patients receiving ART in past 6 months. They have made this 6 months as a standard for default case or loss to follow-up case. If patient is not coming for ARVs for last 3 months, still he is not a defaulter and he is not a loss to follow. 6 months is the criteria for us to label that client or that patient to be a case of defaulter or loss to follow. So when we present our data, out of 856 male patients on antiretrovirals, we are in our loop 609, that is 71%, who are in regular follow-ups. And other 30% out of 856, they failed to come for antiretrovirals after more than 6 months default or loss to follow. And this is a big issue for us because communication gaps, hard travel situation, far-flung areas, finance, and law and order issues are all augment to the loss to follow-up situation for our patients, especially in Balochistan. And only two centers, and Quetta is catering even Afghanistan cases. Even most of the cities are too much away from center. That's why most of the patients who are not personally, they are not willing to defer, but they have problems to come to center very frequently. That's why 6 month loss to follow-up is 30%. Otherwise, there is no any problem or hurdle that they will not come to center. This is a big issue, and other indicators we will follow and search that what is the problem in male patients, they are not coming. But in females, we have 82% adherence and better follow-ups. And same is in TGs, because TGs are only, they have residences in Quetta, not outside of Quetta. We have registered all TGs from Quetta. No one is out of the city except 1 or 2. And children are 60%. I don't know why this is a question, that why children are not coming, or they have their early mortality or early expiries, and they are underreported, and we don't know why they are not coming and whether they are expired or some other thing. We are very much surprised that children's 6 month follow-up or more than 6 months gap, which we label loss to follow-up, is 66%. This is a big issue for us. And we, interestingly, we don't have any peds ARV specialist or art physician for the last 15 years. And we are attending and catering these patients as per protocols. And we always take special consultation from Dr. Fatma and Dr. Idris, our old and experienced peds surgeon, physicians, art physicians, experience in dealing HIV positive peds cases. Next slide. Here is the Art Center BMC registered IDU cases, same MIS NACP data. Our total registered IDU cases till October 2021 are only 165. This is a very interesting and surprising this figure for epidemiologists like Dr. Hamad sitting here, and some others who are working in program to analyze our data. Why for the last 15 years, total injecting drug users we have enrolled, we have registered are only 165. And total injecting drug users ever put on ART are, out of 161, 104. We have started antiretrovirals to 104. And only out of this 104, 46 are retained and not in loss to follow-up category. Out of this 165, 104 were on ARVs, and only 46 are at present taking antiretrovirals. This is a very important slide and figure. Why? We don't know, because major resources of our programs or donors resources are working, and they are allocating funds in this sector, in this key population, for this key population. And for the last 15 years, very first concentrated epidemic was found in this group. But I don't know why our center is uninterruptedly serving, but we only have this much figure. This is a question mark, and we should sort out the reasons why this is. Next slide. Art Center Turbat. This is a brief data of Art Centers Turbat cases. Only the slide shows injecting drug users cases. Same in Turbat Center, total injecting drug users on ART are 128. I was not able to get total number of registered cases because MIS and SCP have no indicator, key indicator column for total ever registered injecting drug users, irrespective of ARVs or other. But they have only mentioned the injecting drug users on ART till October 21. They are 128, and total who are receiving ART for the last 6 months are 41. Only 32% injecting drug users are in loop, and they are adherent, and they are being followed, I think, in center. Next. Total IDUs around both centers. This is just a slide for figures. Our DMC center total IDUs are 104 on ART, and 46 are in last 6 months. 128 Turbat and 41 are taking ARVs. Total on ARVs are from Balochistan, both centers. Only 87 are present on antiretroviral therapy. So this figure is when we see national data that there are approximately 7,000 or 8,000 injecting drug users taking antiretrovirals out of 25,000 or 26. This is nearly about, I think, 30%, nearly 30% of our antiretroviral registered cases. Injecting drug users are 30%. But my figure shows that my center's figure show that in male population, we have 16% injecting drug users, 16%. If we see our figure as a whole, total patients population from total registered cases, we have only 11% injecting drug users registered. Why this data is double in national level and low in my center? And again, my question is, and my reservation is that those NGOs who are working even in my area, even in Turbat, or even in other cities of Pakistan, either their data is much high, I don't know why, or my data is not what I say, parallel to their data. But I am 100% sure that my data, what I am receiving, what population, what figure, what number of injecting drug users I have registered is totally mentioned here. And that is clearly because all patients injecting drug users are male. That's why I have calculated percentage from male patients population, that is 16%, and national is 30%. I don't know, Baluchistan is near by province of Afghanistan, and the drug use is much more here. Influx of drug, influx of all these poverty and many factors are involved, that our injecting drug users, our substance drug users are more is compared to. Either they are underreported or national level they are overreported. I don't know. This is again a question mark why this is the epidemiologists' expertise to sort out the reasons why. Because all patients I have registered are mostly from general population or those key population, and those clients, they again are related with general population, like truckers, long distance truck drivers, like the transport industry, like we have thousands of 2D vehicles for transport purpose. There are many, the hundreds of these 2D drivers, these coaches, buses drivers, and their allied, this transport industries, allied minor industry workers. They are all prone, and we have registered so many cases from this population. We have coal miners, and we have a high prevalence there, but untouched at present. That is a very big question mark and issue, that we have some unique type of dynamics of HIV prevalence and among our general population and our risky population. Coal miners, this transport industry workers are very much prone and undertouched and very marginalized people in Baluchistan. And my suggestion is that we must think about this, the dynamics of Baluchistan. That is something unique type of dynamics in the context of our key population. We have hundreds of workers in big cities of other provinces from our this Baluchistan, and they are running a small type of hotels like Chenki hotels and like these breakfast hostels in Karachi and so many other cities of all over the Pakistan, from some specific areas like Qila Abdullah and Pashin of our Baluchistan's districts. We have registered for the last few years many patients from this profession. Either they are workers, small 10, 15, and 20 years workers, Chenki hotel workers, and their owners. We have registered so many cases from this sect of profession. So coal mining, transport industry, and this small hotel industry, private industry, is a big issue, and this is a very unique dynamics of our province. And this is very untouched. And we are only focusing TGs and injecting drug users. But my reservation is that HIV in general population is much more in a progress in transmission through these groups, these part of general population, not from injecting drug users. They are encircled in a specific area. They have no, technically no ability to transmit more frequently the HIV in general population. They are transmitting HIV more frequently within the key population. injecting drug users transmitting HIV to injecting drug users. They are in a very limited area. They are bound in some specific areas and locations, not transmitting in my experience. I am talking about Quetta, not big cities, where young injecting drug users and female drug users are indulge in risky sexual behavior, but not here. I haven't seen in Quetta in injecting drug users in a condition that they are indulged in risky sexual behavior. They don't have any spots for that. Maybe some very limited access and very early phase young boys indulged in injecting drug users. Maybe they are indulged, but not. MSM is a very big issue. Transgenders are a very big issue for our low populated cities. But injecting drug users are not linked with the general population in the context of transmission of HIV. Next slide.
Dr. Khan, we have 2 more minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Just I am finishing. Referral treatment mechanism of IDUs. HIV positive IDUs are registered in the center mostly through private and public organizations working in this risky population. Some IDUs are registered directly through family members. What figures I have shown, 1/3 of patients among these very few number are registered through family, not from NGOs working on injecting drug users for the last 15 years, but through family. And these family support injecting drug users are very much adherent on ART. This is our experience. And Sociopac at present is the sub-recipient of Nayi Zindagi. National level PR, Nayi Zindagi is the PR at national level. And in our Quetta, Sociopac and the SSR, sub-recipient in Turbat is another NGO, which is working on this injecting drug users. This COPC, what I have labeled is Continuum of Prevention and Care Services, is a part of this Nayi Zindagi and Sociopac activity. This COPC were established in June 2014 under Nayi Zindagi in 30 districts of Pakistan. And only 2 districts, Turbat and Quetta, are included in that 30 districts under the supervision of Nayi Zindagi, the PR. And their services is, they are providing services in 2 districts of Balochistan, injecting drug user services through COPC sites, supervision of Sociopac in Quetta, and Shadow is the SSR in Turbat. Next slide. Next slide. Facilities for IDUs at treatment center. As I mentioned earlier, that free HIV counseling and testing services for the last 15 years, uninterrupted. Free partner spouse counseling and testing. Still, we are doing free counseling and testing. I mean, 3 kits, as per WHO protocol, we are screening on that. If we have discordant results, we have ELISA and 4th generation antibody test, like Aga Khan is doing. What method Aga Khan University Hospital lab is doing for HIV test. We have in our 2 nearby centers free of cost that 4th generation confirmatory test. Free TB, hepatitis B and screening. These are free of cost at TB center and hepatitis center in BMC hospital, as we are in tertiary care hospital. So we have the opportunity for these patients, including injecting drug users, that we do in all our patients TB screening and Hep B, Hep C screening. Either simple screening, if simple screening is needed, we do simple screening. And when there is a need for ELISA, Hep B and Hep C ELISA. We again have free of cost facility for them. Free OI prophylaxis and treatment through PACP, Provincial AIDS Control Program. We have free opportunistic infection medicine like cotrimoxazole, INH provision through TB control program, and some other specific drugs like azithromycin for prophylaxis. Free CD4 testing is still, we are doing free CD4 testing. Kits are supplied by Provincial AIDS Control Program. And free viral load testing at present through National AIDS Control Program funds. I think Global Fund is the main source for that. And Aga Khan is the Aga Khan collection centers are bound to collect samples for viral load. So we are doing viral load testing, periodic viral load testing as per protocols from Aga Khan Lab through NSCP and Global Fund. Free lifelong provision of IRVs, no doubt, it is a very much important and crucial for continuum of care of treatment. Global Fund is the major donor, and still uninterrupted supply is, we are getting an uninterrupted supply. All range of ARVs are available with us, including periodic formulations. Next. Facilities and challenges for IDUs at COPC level. I have talked with the in charge of COPC, Sociopark and COPC, regarding the issues of IDUs. And he interacted with me and he agreed on the following these points. According to the time, due to time problem, I am just narrating this in a speedy way. According to Sociopark official, they are providing the following services through continuum of prevention and care, COPC site. Continuum of prevention and care service. HCT means HIV testing and counseling of drug users and their partner spouses. They are doing free at their center. Provision of new syringes and needles to IDUs. They claim that they on daily basis, they provide new syringes and needles to their clients. But my query is that if they are providing free new syringe and needles, whether they are returning them back the used syringes or not. This is the main issue. If they are not returning the older one, then the component will be not the required the achievement of the success will not be fulfilled if we don't get the reused syringes. In some setups, reused syringes are again used by IDUs and newer ones are sold to the local pharmacies for again this drugs for the
Dr.
purchase
Khan,
of
can you
drugs.
please quickly wrap up?
Yeah, basic medical care is included in their package, but they want budget to be increased. Basic medical care means the wound care or other septic wounds management and this and that. Detoxification, rehabilitation is a big problem and issue for them and for us as well. This is the major problem for us. Detox and rehab is not available in Quetta and in Turbat. This is the best provision which will put a dramatic effect on their health and our outcome of ARVs. Social services are needed. And next. Challenges perspective of working in field, low awareness, stigma and discrimination, limited geographical coverage, law and order issue, non-acceptance of PWID in community, low literacy rate, security problem, violation and discrimination against PWIDs, police and other organization raids. This is what they have told us, and these are I endorse their reservations. Next. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Jazakallah, Dr. Khudadad Khan. That was a very comprehensive answer to some of my questions, so I appreciate that. So I think we have a lot of questions based on your talk. So please stay online, and we will be asking you these questions at the end of our session. Our next speaker, let me share my screen.
Saima, can I please add a few housekeeping jobs here?
Sure.
I see a few raised hands. I am writing in the chat box. Please write your questions in Q&A session box. We will discuss this question after. The other thing is, anyone, participants or any of our panelists, if you want to speak in Urdu, that is perfectly fine with us. So please use the language whatever you feel easy with. Number 3 is, at the end of our panelist presentation, I would like Dr. Faisal Mahmood and Dr. Busha Jamil to comment on these. So please get ready. And Walid, can you please add Dr. Faisal Mahmood as a panelist? Okay, Saima. Thanks.
Okay. So our next speaker is Mr. Wajid Ali, who is representing our team in Larkana and Pakistan. So his talk theme is HIV and IV drug users in Larkana. Mr. Wajid Ali is currently serving as the program director at the Pire Male Health Society. I hope I am pronouncing that correctly, in Larkana, Pakistan. He has 3 types of unique and valuable experience regarding HIV and substance use. He has a history of using drugs, quitting drugs, and then treating drug addiction or substance use disorder for the last 44 years. So Jazakallah for your journey, because we know this is a very difficult one, and we would love to hear your thoughts on this. Currently, he is heading a community-based organization and working in HIV prevention among MSM and transgender community of Larkana. Go ahead, Mr. Wajid Ali, and thank you for being here.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
जी, अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
अपना मेरिट का बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, उन्होंने मुझे कुछ बोलने का चांस दिया, और इतनी ज़बरदस्त ये अवेयरनेस का प्रोग्राम उन्होंने शुरू किया हुआ है जो बहुत सारे लोगों के काम आएगा। इसकी अवेयरनेस दूर दूर तक पहुंचेगी क्योंकि नेट पे है। और ये बात सही है, जैसे तारुफ में बताया गया कि मुझे 3 तरह का एक्सपीरियंस है। अर्ली यानी कि यूथ एज या नौजवानी के टाइम पे वो एक एक्सपेरिमेंट किया था ड्रग्स का कि देखें तो सही होता क्या है, और वो फिर गले पड़ गया। उसने 16 साल एक्टिव एडिक्शन में गुजर गए। बहुत हाथ पांव मारे छोड़ने के, लेकिन कुछ बन नहीं पा रहा था। मैं तो कंबल को छोड़ रहा था, लेकिन कंबल मुझे नहीं छोड़ रहा था। फिर एक बाबा मुझे मिल गया, यानी कि एक ऐसा प्रोफेशनल, आपकी टीम का पार्ट, जैसे आप माहिरीन बैठे हैं। कुछ लोगों की मैं अनकंडीशनल रिस्पेक्ट करता हूँ, उसमें ये डॉक्टर, साइकोलॉजिस्ट और साइकेट्रिस्ट, तो ये 3 तरह के लोग हैं इस दुनिया में जहाँ भी हूँ। मैं इनकी बहुत इज्जत करता हूँ कि इन्हीं में से कोई एक था। और फिर उसकी टीम थी कि जिसने मुझे ऐसा रास्ता दिखाया कि मैं वापस ज़िंदगी की तरफ आया। जब मैं रिकवरी में आया तो मैंने ये अहद किया कि ऐसे लोगों के लिए कुछ करूँगा जो मेरे जैसे हैं, और फिर मैंने ये काम शुरू कर दिया, लोगों को या दूसरों को ये बताने का कि ठीक कैसे होते हैं।
आपकी आवाज रुक रही है वाजिद साहब.
वाजिद साहब आप हमें सुन सकते हैं? Saima, I think we lost him.
Waleed.
Mr. Wajid Ali, can you hear us?
Connection तो उनका. Let's give him a minute, Fiza.
Yeah.
We can go to Mr. Azazuddin then. अगर उनका
ठीक है.
connection का problem है.
ठीक है.
Let's give him 30 seconds. We'll see.
सही. मिस्टर वाजिद अली, हम अगर दूसरे पैनलिस्ट की तरफ मूव कर जाएं तो आप प्लीज ऐसे कीजिए कि अपने आप को लॉग ऑफ करके दोबारा लॉग इन करें तो शायद बेहतर रिसेप्शन हो जाए. ठीक है साइमा?
जी.
Waleed, meanwhile, can you please work with Mr. Wajid Ali to get him back?
Chale, our next speaker was Dr. Parveen Azam Khan. Unfortunately, she's not feeling well and could not join us, but she is actually the founder and chief executive of Dost Welfare Foundation, which was first established in 1992. And mashallah, she had the Tamgha-e-Imtiaz Award from the President of Pakistan for her work of excellence in the field of public service in Pakistan. So she could not be here. So representing her is Mr. Azazuddin. His talk theme is HIV and IV drug users services provided by the Dost Foundation. He is presently working as a manager in planning, monitoring, evaluation, and reporting. He's working with the Dost Foundation for at least 40 years and remains part of activities related to HIV and IV drug users in organization at the provincial and national level since 2006. Ji, बहुत शुक्रिया Mr. Azazuddin for being here, and please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Sahiba, and thank you all the guests and speakers for giving us the opportunity to share our experiences. I think a question raised by Dr. Khudadat Khan, and I will come back to that again. And as you have already said, it's and accepted the apology of Dr. Parveen Azam Khan Sahiba. She could not join us today, and I will be presenting on her behalf. So Waleed, next slide, please. I think third slide. We should go on third slide. We have already introduced Dr. Parveen Azam Khan. I think this is what was the question that was raised by Dr. Khudadat Khan. And I take this opportunity, and I'm just to give, I know the panelists and the learned guests know a lot, but just to recall what we have learned through the past 29 years and sharing our experiences, what we see as an effective and what we have seen in terms of our socioeconomic background going down the drain. So just to give in an idea, might not be based on research that, and we do think to bring these things up into your side. So just looking at Pakistan population, that's what Dr. Khudadat was probably referring to. 6.7 million people in the year 2002, according to the drug abuse situation by the stakeholders, Ministry of Narcotics and UNODC, and 4.2 million people who were drug dependent by then. And this included 22% women and 78% men. And the estimate that normally we see and quote in the epidemics of HIV in Pakistan in terms of IVD use, we always quote them 430,000. What specifically we will be looking at, if you see at the map, you can see the overall impact of blue and green color that shows opiates and cannabis, the supply and the demand in the graphical way. And one thing that you have to look at is that 10.7% population of KP on drug use according to the same report. Just to give you an idea where we are working and what kind of situation we have been dealing. Next, Walid. I will go through a bit quick in the beginning as we have. So just to give you a reminder that we are living in a region, we are very close to Afghanistan, particularly Balochistan and KP, over 2,000 kilometer border with Afghanistan, and the producer of almost 80 to 90% of the world opiates and cannabis, and probably we are on the transit route, and almost 42% of the world's that production comes to Pakistan consumed, and we are by population, we are the biggest consumer country in the world. And if you just look at the national population that is affected, it's where around some 5.7 to 5.7% of Pakistan population. But if you look at the population affected in KP, it's almost 10.7%. So this is the, if you see it around in terms of people getting into drug abuse and affected by drug abuse and later turning into IDUs and using the injectable modes. And it's almost 4.4 million population when you put KP and the newly merged area and even the adjacent districts of Pakistan together. So this influx over the past so many years has remained a challenge and leading cause to, actually the numbers of IVDUs in Pakistan, and eventually leading to the incidence of HIV. So just to give you an idea about that, recall the memories and the facts and figures. Walid, next. Okay, now, obviously when we started with the inception of the organization, our founders and the people who were concerned about, they felt it somehow, as you have mentioned, Dr. Parveen, she had over 5 decades of experience of working in health sector in Pakistan. That's include working with government sector at primary health level, and including the NGO work she's been doing for 29 years. That was something close to her. She looked at, and you can see drug abuse, its social and economic and health consequences, and the consequences and the nexus that drug abuse have with all other issues. This diagram has been taken from the report as well. So just to give you an idea how substance abuse can lead to not only public health issue, individual unmanagement, healthcare issues, including HIV, AIDS, and other diseases that can be associated, that are associated with it. So we see a drug abuse as a broader, leading to other, having consequences to other problem as well. So it gives you the idea why our founders, why the people, thought it might be the right thematic area that we should work and start building work on it. So next, Walid. Well, those thematic areas it does start at, you can see the history later, a quick history, but obviously the thematic areas are drug demand reduction, HIV prevention, human rights, human resource development, and community development. These are all multi-pronged, systematic, multi-dimensional, and cross-cutting, and developed over 29 years. Without any, it's very inclusive to think, even if you think of drug users, whether it's HIV and somebody who has been through it, and they might have other issues, that discrimination, they're discriminating their rights, and so just can imagine through that how the whole thematic areas are visualized over the years and developed. So just to give you an idea and background and sharing our experiences. Walid, next. Well, this is something very close to Dr. Parveen. I wish she was here, and she taught us those to be, the tree that we focused on and linked with its thematic areas and grassroots community and the whole donors and the people and the philanthropists and the service providers and society members and volunteers being the trunk and giving the stability and working right to the grassroots level with the grassroots level population, our target groups that we are working. So she imagined that, and she calls it as those tree, and the whole setup at grassroots level, including the BHUs and FCH centers and dispensaries and the community-based organization and the religious, considering our region and the influences, the religious leaders, the community stakeholders. And obviously we are working with drug users, and we are talking about IVD use. So obviously the people who we are referring to, ex-drug users and their family, how they can contribute in the bottom of approach, where we tackle these different issues, which we call it our thematic areas. So just to give you an idea in one picture, how we look at these issues, how they are linked up and how people are contributing to it. The tree gives you an idea of that. Jeevali, thank you. Population, very quickly, the population we served, I mean, all these population, drug addicts, street children, we have been working in different community settings, from Afghan refugees camp to prison population. And obviously, when we are talking about drug users and IVD use, we have been working with them all different settings, from including IDPs and refugees. So we had that experience, and we had that experience of working with these target population in different community settings. So those brings actually that experience of almost 29 years to this platform, and we'll be sharing their views and learnings with this platform. Hopefully we'll get a lot of it. Waleed, please. Well, the whole idea, each of our target group they might have different needs in different community setting, considering all the broader target population that we are serving. But the steps that takes get them back into the mainstream society are quite similar. We reach out them in prevention services, and reach out them with need-based and right-based services, give them the support, whether it's directly through services or whether through the referral linkages that we have, and providing them with the rehabilitation services and reintegrating back to the mainstream community, because the target group that we are servicing are mostly living on the margin of the society. They are the street drug users, they are people living within prisons, they are at risk, they are facing crisis. So all these target population that we serve are mostly live on the margin of the society. The whole idea is to bring them back to the mainstream society. And this has been going on for almost 29 years. Waleed. I mean, as a civil society organization, what challenges, we will be talking about, challenges and what works and what doesn't works in the end. But, just to give you an idea how a good day, how a good year looks like, you can see, we have just quoted 1 year, that was 2017, and how effective we have been, reaching out people with our programs at 1 day. These are the beneficiaries through different program areas that we have used to reach out on a daily basis. And you can just look back and we can share this presentation with you. But just to give you an idea how effectively we have been reaching out to the people. Obviously, this was the time when we had enough financial support and resources, but it does vary because the civil society have their own constraints, and particularly it's mostly the funding, the continuation of funding, that is the biggest challenge for civil society. Despite the fact we have gained the skills and the knowledge for the past so many years working in the area that we are talking about, but still we have our own challenges. Waleed, next. Well, I saw a question in the comment section about treatment of drug users. I think we still have, this was data, and you can see different setups. And at this moment, we are operational quite with low beds just because of financial constraints, but still we are supporting and running with reasonable amount of beds for drug users, and it's with support of the community. And this is the strongest, learning of our organization, that things, the bottom up approach, the contribution and the community support is very essential in intervention or working with the communities. So these are just to give you an idea what major activities for the drug users that we have. That was therapeutic community, detoxification and rehabilitation, social reintegration and relapse prevention, giving them the skills to get back into the community, and almost up to 24th month aftercare and follow-up services. So our treatment program is up to 90 days for most of our drug users who get the residential facility, but it also depends upon ASI, so what the severity index recommend, and so we can talk about that if you want. So this is just to give you an idea how we, as service providers, evolved over the past time. Ji Waleed, next. Well, coming to you, some of the important questions that were shared with us. A provision of HIV services to PWIDs and high-risk population. Just to give you an idea, over a period of time, it has been very, in the beginning in 98 to 2002, it's been more of prevention and awareness services. When you come to 2003 and 2009, you see that the VCT services given were over 800 people, and just 9 people were reported positive. And similarly, in the last phase from 2010 to 14, VCT services were given to over 6,700 people, and about 150 positive cases were reported by then. So just to give you an idea over time, what are the incidents that were reported, but this was more general with all target population that we were serving. Can we go to next slide to give you a better idea of IVDUs? So this is here. We have 2 parts of this graph. You can see that I've tried to explain it. Treatment and VCT services breakdown for IVDUs for the 5 years, for the last 5 years, almost 5 years. We have successfully reached to over 15,000 drug users, and that also include 82% adult and 18% children. And the VCT services were provided particularly with to the IVDUs. That was about 1,554. That was almost, you can see the prevalence of IVDUs. Sorry, that was 10.2. This is according to our data, our own available data. So you just to give you an idea how what is the occurrence and what is the burden on of these things. And almost this in 1,500 IVDUs included 1,300 up to almost 86% adult, and 210 means 13% children who were below 18 of age. Next, please, Waleed. Incidence of HIV among IVDUs and co-infection. Out of the IVDUs tested over 5 years, almost 262, almost 16% were HIV positive, and that included now 194 adult and 68 children. But what you have to look around is compare to the 16% of HIV positive cases. The prevalence is what our data reveals. The prevalence of adult is 14.43, where compared to much higher prevalence among the children drug users, that is 32%. And similarly, the co-infection, if you look at the co-infection of hepatitis B, C among the 262 positive clients, positive patients, there were only 12, that is all less as 4.6% of hepatitis B, compared to a very high 121 hepatitis C, which is almost 46.2%. So just to give you an idea of incidence of HIV and the co-infection. So from our own 5 years data, just to give the participant and you an idea, and we can talk about it later. Jeep, Waleed, next. This is probably the last slide. We normally close with a Pashto line saying Har Kale, which means welcome any day, any time. So we hope that all the people from different region, and as in the beginning, Dr. Fiza Gilani said, it's quite a representation of the provinces. A few things that I want to close with is obviously the services are very gel. It was not very easy journey for us over the past time. And you know, the people which we are referring as only 150 and 60 by 2014. It used to take us a lot to take them to the ARV centers in the beginning. But now the nearest center that is run by the government is just 2 kilometers away from our office, and almost all of the positive clients are registered, and we have been working very closely with their centers, and it's been very supportive among the civil society organization and the government setups. It's only just that we probably have realized very late that we have to invest in the provinces like Balochistan and KP before the prevalence might get to the position where we are more concerned. Because when I joined this organization back in 2002 in the World Bank project, and we were talking about the prevalence to maintain it below 5% among the PWIDs. And still now we are sitting in 2021 and the prevalence among IVDUs is about 38%, and we are still going around and thinking to I think we have to see what went wrong and what can be done in a better way, and it can only be done with sharing and learning. So the best practices which we are referring as question in this is that we have to study what has worked and what doesn't work. The provinces where the investment has been going, the prevalence has been creeping around. And if you see it, last surveillance, which is one of the questions which is not very frequent. We mostly rely on estimates, and last survey and IBBS survey was back in 2016 and 17, which has been the, in case which has to be very periodic. Similarly with the drug situation in Pakistan, this last survey took place back in 2012-13. And we are supposed to be the next survey with the stakeholders like UNODC and Ministry of Narcotics supposed to be happening in 2018, but I don't know, maybe lack of resources and other issues. So if you don't know this different situation, we might be going in a wrong way and it takes longer way to come back. So knowing that what is the real situation, I am very, very, Dr. Khudadat very rightly pointed out, the drug situation, even those working in the field, the figures that are quoted now, almost 9 years old, and we are still working on the same model. So things are changing, the new drugs in the market, the route for cannabis and opiate, which was from Afghanistan, has now become the route of new drugs that we normally hear as ice and methamphetamine. So we have to, put together our minds and rethink what we can do as stakeholders, whether from civil society, government, and CBOs. I think from my side, thank you. If I have missed any point out, please let me know. I will be looking at the question and comments. At least I'm free now to look at the comments. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. That was excellent, Mr. Tazuddin. Thank you very much. And I think, the route when you've been working for so long, I think you understand the issues at a level where it may be frustrating dealing with these issues, but still you have more wisdom in which ways to navigate through this very difficult patient population. And I think it goes without saying that until we address the opioid crisis and the influx of drugs and the drug rehab, the numbers will remain discordant as to how many you screen, how many you find, and then how many you can actually save. So let me move on. We have questions, but we will hold it till the end. Waleed, do we have Mr. Wajid Ali He does not have audio. He said in the comments.
Yes, he joined. Yes.
Has he joined?
I think he has to unmute himself.
Should we take a comment, Fiza, while we wait?
Mr. Wajid Ali, I see you unmuted yourself. Can you hear us? आप हमें सुन सकते हैं? ठीक है, मेरा ख्याल है Saima, we can start with discussion. It seems he doesn't have audio here. There.
Okay, well, we are sorry to lose him.
Yeah.
But if he does at any point come in, then Waleed, let us know, please. Okay, well, let me see what questions we have. But before we go to the questions, I think we would like to invite Dr. Faisal Mahmood, if he is there for a comment, and then speakers.
Yeah, I was hoping Dr. Bushra Jamil and Dr. Faisal Mahmood, if they can give us their
Bushra is here.
thoughts on this. Yeah.
Oh, I've been here all along and I thoroughly enjoyed the presentations, and I think it's a huge achievement to get all these people together and listen to them. And then it is an eye-opener, actually, the way we've handled HIV in Pakistan. So just to let everyone know, adherence has been an issue since the beginning of the launch of the program. And in a recent analysis, it was found that we have a great attrition of people who report to HIV centers. So if 6 months is the point where people are considered to be lost to follow up, so only 40% of patients are retained in services at around 6 months, if you look at the situation in Pakistan. And by the end of 1 year, only 18% of patients continue to report to ART centers. And by the end of 2nd year, only 10% of patients are retained in the program. So such is the situation as far as adherence is concerned. Then again, there are very few opportunities for engaging and keeping the HIV practitioners up to date in practices. So that is another aspect which the programs need to focus on. Develop more HIV practitioners, engage GPs, and then strive to keep them up to date and build their communication skills as well. So maybe I can stop if.
Thank you, Bushra. Yes, thank you so much. Yes, Mr. Wajid Ali, can you hear us?
Okay, let's go with Dr. Faisal Mahmood, and
okay,
we'll see if Mr. Wajid Ali is available after this.
Ji, go ahead, Faisal. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for inviting me. Little caught off guard, but thank you. So I just want to highlight one or two things. One is Dr. Usmani's lecture was really an eye-opener in another way, which is he did point out the fact that they're seeing infection in non-key populations. And that is something that I think gets lost in the bigger picture because of the smaller population of Balochistan. And that is actually very concerning. And we know of other instances where villages have been coming in positive, but that is something I think needs to be taken notice of, that there may be lots of outbreaks happening over there, just like we've seen in Sindh, which are going under the radar. And another indication of this was the relatively lower positivity in the IDUs over there. So that was one thing which I think we really should look at next. But fantastic program. I think it was I thoroughly enjoyed this 2 hours looking at the different facets of HIV. So with that was the one thing that really want to mention. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Faisal. I think you can appreciate the differences better than us. So that was an important observation. Thank you. Ji, Mr. Wajid Ali, aapko awaaz aa rahi hai?
Saima, I don't think उन्होंने अभी मैसेज किया है कि उनका नहीं काम कर रहा सिस्टम पे.
अच्छा, चलें. Sorry to lose him. Chale, let's go back to Mr. Let me see what the questions are. So we have one question by Dr. Syed Hussain. Do you have trained counselors and how often they provide help in counseling? So Dr. Khudadat Khan, let me go to you because it sounds like you are in Quetta, and then, so tell me, do you have enough trained counselors, and what is the training? And what help do you need as far as the ART?
क्या आप लोगों को आ रही है?
अब आ रही है.
जी, वाजिद साहब आएंगे या मैं जवाब दे दूं? हेलो.
Saima, you have to unmute. Yeah.
जी, आप जवाब दे दें डॉक्टर खुदादात खान.
जी, अस्सलाम वालेकुम. मैं जरा ये कहना चाहूँगा, जैसे थैंक यू डॉक्टर फैसल, थैंक यू डॉक्टर बुशरा. बात ये है कि जैसे मैं आपको कह रहा था कि 2005, अब हम 2021 में बैठे हैं. मैंने अपने एक साथी डॉक्टर रफ़ीशान साहब, ही वाज अ सीनियर administrative official of our teaching hospital. He shown his interest to be the part of this HIV/AIDS treatment center at the beginning, when a lot of physicians refused to join this center as a physician. And I was the person who personally volunteered myself to be the in charge of this center. तो अब मेरी प्रैक्टिस नहीं है प्राइवेट. मैं गैस्ट्रोंटोलॉजी में अच्छी प्रैक्टिस करता था. डॉक्टर साहब जो रफ़ीशान साहब सीनियर मोस्ट डॉक्टर, वो एज ए काउंसलर उसने ये सेंटर ज्वाइन किया, क्योंकि जब प्रोग्राम का जो HIV/AIDS का पाकिस्तान का रिस्पॉन्स आया, नेशनल एड्स कंट्रोल प्रोग्राम और प्रोविंशियल एड्स कंट्रोल प्रोग्राम बने, तो प्रोविंशियल एड्स कंट्रोल प्रोग्राम में डॉक्टर साहब आए और उन्होंने बड़े शुरू के पायनियर लीड वर्कर्स और NGOs के साथ डॉक्टर साहब ने काम किया. लेकिन मेरे सेंटर में वो सीनियर मोस्ट होने के बावजूद एज ए काउंसलर काम करते रहे. लेटर ऑन जब पेशेंट्स का नंबर बढ़ा, ग्लोबल फंड ने हमें एक काउंसलर और एक फीमेल स्टाफ प्रोवाइड की, ओनली वन. तो हम तब से काम कर रहे हैं और अब तक, और वो डेडिकेटेड एक काउंसलर, मैं उन्हें अप्रिशिएट करूंगा. और मेरे केस मैनेजर जो वो भी काउंसलिंग करते हैं, वो अपनी ड्यूटी आवर्स से भी ज़्यादा एक्सीड करके वहाँ बैठते हैं और बड़े इंटरेस्ट से, और पेशेंट्स के साथ बड़ा एक अच्छा लिएजन डेवलप होता है उनका. तो इसकी वजह, जैसे डॉक्टर बुशरा ने कहा कि अगर चंद महीने का गैप आए तो इतने % रिटेन नहीं होते ट्रीटमेंट पे, 6 माह का गैप आए तो शायद उन्होंने 40% और 1 साल का 18%. लेकिन मेरा जो डेटा है, अगेन मैं ओपन छोड़ता हूँ किसी भी एपिडेमियोलॉजिस्ट या किसी भी फील्ड वर्कर से लेके स्पेशलिस्ट तक, कि वो आए मेरा एडहेरेंस रेट चेक करें. डॉक्टर फैसल यहाँ मौजूद हैं, मेरे कुलीग हैं, मैं रिस्पेक्ट करता हूँ उनसे. जब भी कोई ट्रीटमेंट फेल्योर का केस हुआ है, मैंने क्लिनिकल डायग्नोसिस की है. शुरू में हमारे पास वायरल लोड CD4 फैसिलिटी नहीं थी क्लिनिक, और उन्होंने उसे क्लियरली ट्रीटमेंट फेल्योर डिक्लेयर करके सेकंड लाइन पे, इवन एक पेशेंट हमारा थर्ड लाइन पे. तो जो हमें पिक होते गए ट्रीटमेंट फेल्योर के, हमने उन्हें सेकंड लाइन, थर्ड लाइन में. तो ये एक इंडिकेटर की है कि अगर आपके पेशेंट सेकंड लाइन पे नहीं जा रहे हैं, इट मींस कि आपकी ट्रीटमेंट, आपका काउंसलिंग सेक्शन सेटअप, ये सब एक्सीलेंट है और पेशेंट आपके साथ एक बड़े अच्छे रेपो में आ रहे हैं. तो काउंसलिंग का बिल्कुल बेहतरीन रोल है, और काउंसलर अगर एक भी हो तो कोई इशू नहीं. 1-1.5 हज़ार पेशेंट का बल्क, जिसमें 1000 एंटीरिट्रोवायरल्स पे हैं, वो डेडिकेटेड अगर हो तो मैं वही कहता हूँ कि अगर आप में कमिटमेंट हो, आपने कोई चीज़ें नहीं देखनी कि आपकी प्रैक्टिस को क्या हो रहा है, या आप बैठे हैं 17 ग्रेड से आपने स्टार्ट लिया है और 20वें ग्रेड में जाके भी आप उसी पोजीशन पे बैठे हैं, तो ये चीज़ें चाहिए हमें, और बड़ी सिंपल चीज़ें लेके हम आगे बढ़ें, पेशेंट के साथ एक अच्छा रेपो बनाएं। तो सिंपल काउंसलर्स इसमें बड़ा अच्छा रोल प्ले करते हैं, और हमारी सक्सेस का बेस ही यही है काउंसलिंग। तो काउंसलर्स नो डाउट ज़्यादा होने चाहिए, नो डाउट, फीमेल काउंसलर्स, इवन उनकी ट्रेनिंग्स होनी चाहिए। हमने बेशुमार बार कहा है कि ट्रेनिंग्स, तो इन काउंसलर्स की बेचारों की ट्रेनिंग्स नहीं है, लेकिन तब भी वो काम कर रहे हैं, अपने वे में करें और बड़ी अच्छी काउंसलिंग करें, और पेशेंट एडहिरेंट है। तो इन चीज़ों को अगर लेके हम देखें तो डॉक्टर्स की ट्रेनिंग होनी चाहिए, डॉक्टर्स के इंसेंटिव्स होने चाहिए कि वो इस सेंटर पे वो आए। अदरवाइज जो भी सुनता है कि पीडियाट्रिक HIV में हम आना चाहते हैं और अगले ही दिन उन्हें पता चलता है कि HIV में कोई इंसेंटिव्स नहीं है, तो वो पीडियाट्रिक फिजिशियन इनकार करता है कि मैं नहीं आऊँगा ट्रेनिंग पे। FCPS हमारे सीनियर रजिस्ट्रार लेवल से लेकर प्रोफेसर तक कोई ओन नहीं करता सेटअप्स को। हमारा जो सबसे प्रॉब्लमेटिक इशू आ रहा है, डिस्क्रिमिनेशन, स्टिग्मा, वो हमारे सर्जन्स और गायनेकोलॉजिस्ट, जहाँ सर्जरी का कंपोनेंट इन्वॉल्व होता है, उनमें ये मिथ्स हैं या कोई खौफ है जो भी है। तो वो ऊपर लेवल, टर्शरी के लेवल में भी डिस्क्रिमिनेशन, स्टिग्मा हो रही है। हालांकि हमने इलिटरेट कम्युनिटीज़ को इस हद तक अपने साथ कई सालों से जोड़ा है कि अब कई फैमिलीज एक साथ बैठ के गपशप कर रही होती हैं, हस्बैंड, वाइफ, बच्चे एक साथ बैठे होते हैं, गपशप कर रहे होते हैं। तो हमने स्टिग्मा और इन डिस्क्रिमिनेशंस को बहुत हद तक इनके साथ हमने निपटा है। लेकिन अमंग द हेल्थ वर्कर्स हाईली स्पेशलाइज्ड जो सेटअप है, हम वहाँ बैठे हैं, जो हमारे जो टर्शरी केयर की मैं बात करूँ, लेकिन उनकी सर्जरीज, इवन एक लिम्फ नोड बायोप्सी तक नहीं होती। तो ये चीज़ें हैं, रिसोर्स, लिमिटेड रिसोर्सेज में काम हो रहा है। लेकिन जैसे क्वेश्चन किया गया कि काउंसलिंग, तो हमारा बेसिक काउंसलिंग है। अगर हम काउंसलिंग ना करते तो हमारे पेशेंट रिटेन नहीं होते, हमारे सारे पेशेंट लॉस टू फॉलोअप में होते, और ट्रीटमेंट फेल्योर में। साइंटिफिकली मैं इसको ये लूँगा कि जब पेशेंट ट्रीटमेंट फेल्योर में नहीं जा रहा, इट मीन्स कि वो आपके साथ एक बेहतर लाइजॉन में है और उसकी एडहेरेंस अच्छी है हर आपके विजिट पे। और अगर विजिट मिस होते हैं, हमारे काउंसलर, हमारा केस मैनेजर उन्हें टेलीफोन करता है, मोबाइल के जरिए हम बुलाते हैं। और कई पेशेंट हमने बुलाए हैं जिन्होंने कई माह, साल एंट्री ट्रायल छोड़ी हैं, उसके बावजूद हमने उन्हें अपने सेटअप में रिटेन किया है। तो नो डाउट, लेकिन हमें रिसोर्सेज चाहिए, हमें नंबर ऑफ, ये साइंटिफिकली देखा जाए, जैसे किसी आबादी पे कितने डेंटिस्ट, कितने डॉक्टर, नर्सेज होनी चाहिए, इसी तरह अब देखना चाहिए। और ये मेरा स्ट्रॉन्ग ये वो है कि हमें देखना चाहिए कि कितने 100 पेशेंट एक सेंटर पे रजिस्टर हों, तो उससे आप अमला बढ़ाएंगे, अपना ह्यूमन रिसोर्स बढ़ाएंगे। और कितना अरसा गुजरे तो आपने अपडेट नॉलेज के लिए अपने डॉक्टर से लेके, अपने पैरामेडिक्स और अपने वर्कर से लेके, काउंसलर से लेके, सबको आपने अपडेट ट्रेनिंग्स दिलानी है जो मैंडेटरी होनी चाहिए। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
बहुत शुक्रिया फॉर दैट आंसर, एंड व्हाट एन इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन एज वेल। एक चीज जो मैंने नोट की है वो ये है कि सबसे ज्यादा जो लिमिटेड रिसोर्स है, स्पेशली इन द हेल्थ केयर कम्युनिटी, वो एक दर्द दिल और एक खुलूस एंड केयरिंग फॉर HIV है। एंड आपकी जो प्रेजेंटेशन थी डॉक्टर खान, उससे यही लगा कि जितने आपने कंपैशन के साथ और एक डेडिकेशन के साथ आपने जो नंबर्स आर प्रूविंग कि यू कैन, बिकॉज दैट इज द की। आप जितने मर्जी लोगों को रजिस्टर कर लें, अगर इफ यू डू नॉट मेक दैट ह्यूमन कनेक्शन जो कि आपकी काउंसलिंग प्रोवाइड कर रही है, तो कोई भी वापस नहीं आएगा ट्रीटमेंट के लिए। तो आई थिंक हमारा यही गोल तो यही है कि जो लोग केयर अबाउट करते हैं HIV के लिए, we have to get them together so that we have more examples. जितना आपका सक्सेसफुल ART सेंटर आप चला रहे हैं, जज़ाकल्लाह, and thank you so much for that. Let me go to the next question. This is, as I have worked with substance use disorder and addiction, and currently working for NACP, UNDP, HIV/AIDS program, there is no rehabilitation center which is completely working for the rehabilitation for the HIV. Only New Zindagi is registering them and detoxing them, but no rehab facility is provided for them. Recently, some of the families contacted after their relapse to substance use, and now they are not willing to adherence to ART. How we are going to deal with this, and this is so alarming. I think I'm going to give this question to Mr. Azazuddin, if he is still with us.
Ji, bilkul, ma'am.
Running this. Ji, go ahead.
Ma'am, can you listen?
Yes, we can hear you.
I think there are a number of facilities nowadays, and they've been increasing. Just me give you an idea. As I've said, that we have worked with 650 beds. Even now we have a facility of 500 beds. We are not operational with full-fledged services. Our services are 3 months without discrimination, and particularly giving a high priority to the IVDUs. And this is what has been one of our success. You know, back in 2006-07, when the World Bank funding was there, it was, you know, the needle exchange program, and you know, it was very challenged. Even when we implemented a project in the prison, we faced challenges from the prison authority about, you know, needle syringe exchange program. So it went other way around. तो हमें मतलब 2006 में भी अगर हम देखें तो काफी हमने इस साइड को देखा, और फैसिलिटीज मौजूद हैं. नई जिंदगी भी फैसिलिटीज दे रहा है, मगर वो सिर्फ IVDUs को दे रहा है. मगर हम जितने सर्विसेज दे रहे हैं, this has been one of our best practice. You take the IVDUs as soon as you get in contact with them. So giving priorities to the IVDUs might probably save the incident as well. So I think this has been one of the success, and the figure you can see, 5 साल में तकरीबन 1550 जो आप अगर मेरे presentation में देख लें, 1550 IVDUs को हमने treat किया है, and treatment means up to 3 months residential facility. So this can be a point where the treatment of ART, और न सिर्फ इनको treat करते हैं, जब ये identify होते हैं तो हम ART centers के साथ इनको register करते हैं. डॉक्टर खुदादा साहब के पॉइंट में सिर्फ एक इजाफा कर दूं केपी के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में. आई थिंक जो NGOs काम कर रहे होते हैं, दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट हाउ सर्विसेज आर प्रोवाइडेड. काउंसलिंग सर्विसेज, CBOs, उनकी स्किल बहुत जरूरी है. जब कोई IVDUs सिविल सोसाइटी से रेफर होता है ART सेंटर को, सो इट रिड्यूस बर्डन ऑन द गवर्नमेंट सेंटर्स. एंड आई वंस हर्ड फ्रॉम द पेशावर ART सेंटर, and it was quite, एक अच्छी फीलिंग होती है जब वहां का आपके स्टाफ आपको कहते हैं कि नहीं, जब आपके इदारे के से रेफर होते हैं, उनको काफी कुछ पता होता है. आई थिंक द नॉलेज लेवल हैज इम्प्रूव्ड व्हेन दे गो थ्रू द सर्विसेज. तो ये एक चीज है. और दूसरा सर जो ट्रेनिंग का पॉइंट रेज किया, थोड़ा सा जो है पेशेंट जो विजिट करते हैं, आपको पता है नॉर्मली ये सेंटर्स जो हैं गवर्नमेंट सेंटर्स के अंदर हैं, or there's a lot of people, there's a lot of staff engaged in it. So the stigma and discrimination is there, which needs to be, sensitizing people, particularly the health workers, because वो तो expose हो रहे थे. वो obviously जब एक ART center को visit करते हैं किसी health facility में, district level की health facility में, so there's always, they've been treated. Not in our context, it's been very, we don't have too much cases, but क्योंकि हम अक्सर जब stakeholders के साथ बैठते हैं, तो especially जो दूसरे ग्रुप हैं, वो इस चीज का इजहार जरूर करते हैं. So sensitization की जरूरत है. और जितने भी सिविल सोसाइटी हैं, वो obviously वहाँ पे काउंसलिंग सर्विसेज हैं, अगर नहीं है तो उनकी भी स्किल डेवलपमेंट की जरूरत है. So treatment center are there and they are growing in number, but what they have for IVDUs is a question mark.
Saima, please unmute yourself.
Sorry, Azazuddin Sahab, just to finish this question, Aapki foundation is only in KP. To Baluchistan mein, and I can ask Dr. Bushra and Dr. Faisal about Punjab and Sindh, but Baluchistan mein hai koi ریہیب سینٹرز جس طرح کہ آپ نے اپنا ان پیشنٹ ایک 30-90 days کا آپ نے بتایا ہے, are they available anywhere else? آپ پہلے مسٹر اعزاز الدین آپ جواب دے دیں, پھر میں ڈاکٹر خان سے پوچھ لیتی ہوں.
جی میم, obviously میں سوری اگر ہینڈ ریز ہے, so we meet people. I'm not sure about the exact number کیونکہ جو رپورٹ کو میں ریفر کر رہا ہوں وہ پورے پاکستان میں by 2012 92 سینٹرز کی جو ریزیڈینشیل فیسلٹی ہے یا اسٹرکچرڈ یا انسٹرکچرڈ ٹریٹمنٹ کی بات ہوتی ہے وہ بتا رہی ہے, which is quite below reporting even in reporting centers. I think I hope we have been missed out in that report because the figure doesn't suits us. میرے خیال میں کے پی میں کافی انکریز ہو رہا ہے. I think somebody from Balochistan can give us a better idea how treatment centers are there.
Yes. کیا میں بات کر سکتا ہوں؟
جی جی بتائیں ڈاکٹر خان.
جی, جہاں تک ڈاکٹر صاحب آپ نے پوچھا کہ ڈیٹاکس فیسلٹی اور ریہیب, تو یقیناً کوئی اسٹینڈرڈ ڈیٹاکس اور ریہیب نہیں ہے. چند ایسے کلیم کرتے ہیں, ان کے ادارے سے ہمارے پاس پیشنٹ بھی آتے ہیں, لیکن وہ کوئی اسٹینڈرڈائز طریقہ یا کوئی اس طرح نہیں ہے. اب آپ نے شاید سنا ہوگا یا نہیں, تو میں آپ کو یہ بتانا چاہوں گا, بپس کے نام سے بلوچستان انسٹیٹیوٹ آف سائیکیٹری اینڈ بیہیورل سائنسز, ایک بہت بڑا ادارہ ہمارے ہاں پچھلے سال سے کام شروع کر چکا ہے. سائیکیٹری کو اپڈیٹ کیا گیا ڈپارٹمنٹ کو, بلوچستان انسٹیٹیوٹ آف سائیکیٹری اینڈ بیہیورل سائنسز, اور بہت بڑا ادارہ ہے, اور اس میں کم از کم 10-15-20 سائیکیٹرسٹ FCPS لیول کے, اور اس میں بڑے ایڈمیشنز, اور وہاں پہ ہم نے جو ہیڈ آف ڈپارٹمنٹ اور انسٹیٹیوشن کے چیف ایگزیکٹو بولان میڈیکل کمپلیکس ہاسپٹل جہاں ہے, میں اس کے بالکل ساتھ ہی یہ اسٹیبلش ہوا ہے. تو ہم نے ایک میٹنگ کنڈکٹ کی ہے, اور نیئر فیوچر میں ہم اسے پریکٹیکلی پاسبل بنا رہے ہیں کہ انڈر دا سپرویژن آف دیز ایکسپیرئنس اسپیشلسٹ وی وانٹ ٹو میک اے لیجون ود دیم فار ڈیٹاکسیفیکیشن. ریہیب بھی اس کا ایک کمپوننٹ بن سکتا ہے اگر ہمارے پاس کچھ ریسورسز ہوں, لیکن ڈیٹاکس کے لیے انہوں نے ایکسیپٹ کیا ہے کہ ہمارے پاس اسپیس بھی ہے, ہم IDUs کو ویسے بھی رکھ رہے ہیں. تو اسپیشلی ہم وہ IDUs انجیکٹنگ ڈرگ یوزر دوز آر HIV پازیٹیو اینڈ رجسٹرڈ ان آرٹ سینٹر, جب ہمیں ضرورت ہوگی ہم ان کی ڈیٹاکس اور یہ ہم اپنے اس ادارے سے کروائیں گے, اور فیوچر میں ہمارا ان کے ساتھ بڑا ایک اچھا کوآرڈینیشن ہوگی. تو ہم نے یہی کیا, کیونکہ کہیں باہر اور گورنمنٹ اور پبلک پرائیویٹ سیکٹر میں دونوں میں کہیں نہیں ہے یہ. تو انشاءاللہ نیئر فیوچر میں ہم اسے پریکٹیکلی پاسبل بنائیں گے.
اوکے, دیٹ از ایکسلنٹ کہ آپ کے لیے ایک اور دروازہ کھلا ہے. ایک مجھے ایک بات, آپ کے لیکچر میں ایک آپ نے لفظ استعمال کیا تھا, ڈراپ ان سینٹر. کین یو ایکسپلین دیٹ, دا کانسیپٹ آف دیٹ, کہ ART پرووائڈ کرنے کے لیے, واٹ از دیٹ؟
ART پرووائڈ کرنے کے لیے
یا ڈراپ ان سینٹرز کی آپ نے بات کی تھی, از اٹ
ڈراپ ان سینٹرز اگر انجیکٹنگ ڈرگ یوزرز پہ کوئی کام کر رہے ہیں ادارہ, تو وہ زیادہ بہتر وہ دے سکے گا. یہ پرائیویٹ سیکٹر کا, اور یہ جو انجیکٹنگ ڈرگ یوزرز پہ, جیسے میں نے سوشو پاک اور COPCs کا کہا, تو یہ وہاں کا جو فیسلٹی ہے وہاں پہ وہ ان پیشنٹس کو جو انجیکٹنگ ڈرگ یوزرز ہیں وہ ان کا انیشیل ٹیسٹنگ کاؤنسلنگ کریں گے, اور جب ان کی HIV ٹیسٹنگ پازیٹیو آئے گی تو ہمارے پاس ریفر کریں گے. ڈراپ ان سینٹر موسٹلی کوئی ایسا سچ الگ سے کوئی سیٹ اپ میری نالج میں نہیں ہے.
کہ مجھے یہی لگ رہا ہے کہ ARVs جو ہیں وہ پہنچانا لوگوں کو, جو ٹرانسپورٹیشن پرابلم,
ہاں یہ ان کے فیلڈ ایگزیکٹلی, ہاں یہ ایگزیکٹلی
ہونا چاہیے.
جی جو میرے نہیں وہ اسی کو میں ایکسپلین کر رہا ہوں. یہی سوشو پاک COPC کا جو فیلڈ ورکر ہیں وہ ہم سے, وہ پیشنٹ جو گھر سے یا تھوڑے سے فاصلے پہ دور ہیں اور سٹیبل ہیں, وہ سمجھتے ہیں, تو ان کو ریگولر بیسس پہ ہمارے ART سینٹر پہ ان کا فیلڈ ورکر آتا ہے, اور یہ بڑے پہلے سے پریکٹس ہے, اور وہ ان کے گھر پہ یہ ڈرگز پہنچاتا ہے, اور اگر کوئی سیریس ایشوز ہیں تو وہ ہمیں انفارم کرے گا, ہم انہیں کال کریں گے سینٹر. ادروائز وہ پیشنٹس اپنے تھرو فیلڈ ورکر کے وہ وہیں پہ ان کے گھر پہ یہ ڈرگز پہنچائی جا رہی ہیں. کوئٹہ کے
Excellent.
تقریباً کوئی 30, 40, 50 کلومیٹرز کے کوئی فاصلے کے ایریاز تک یہ ان کو کیٹر کر رہے ہیں. بہت زیادہ دور پھر وہ نہیں ہوتے, اور انہوں نے یہ کہا کہ ہم کچھ پیشنٹس کو TCS کے ذریعے یا مطلب کوریئر کے ذریعے ہم یہ میڈیسن بھجوا رہے ہیں. لیکن تب بھی یہ ایشو آتا ہے اگر وہ زیادہ ٹائم تک ہمارے سینٹر پہ فالو اپ کے لیے نہ آئیں تو یہ ہمارے لیے, ہم فزیشنز کے لیے پرابلم بن سکتا ہے پھر. لیکن ہم نے لیسٹ پریفریبل یہ میکینزم یہ اڈاپٹ یہی کیا ہے کہ ان کو ہم گھر پہ تھرو دی COPC سائٹ ان کے ورکرز کے تھرو ہم بھجوا دیں. یہ چل رہا ہے, یہ ہمارا بالکل امپلیمنٹ ہے, اور یہ سکسیسفلی ہو رہا ہے. اگر آپ اس کو ڈراپ ان سینٹر, کیونکہ مجھے اس کا یہ ٹیکنیکلی وہ زیادہ ڈیٹیل نہیں معلوم کہ ڈراپ ان سینٹر کو یہ کس طرح ایکسپلین کرتے.
Okay, thank you so much. Any last
I
comments?
just want to
Dr.
add,
Bushra?
I see Dr. Nida Arif is online.
Okay.
Nida, can you just give us your comments in 1-2 minutes? I know you treat substance users and HIV in New Hampshire. So let's see if your phone is working.
Hello, assalamualaikum everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ji, we can. Assalamu alaikum.
جی السلام علیکم. میں جو ہے وہ ٹریول کر رہی ہوں تو مجھے سگنلس پہ بہت زیادہ یقین نہیں ہے, بٹ لیٹس ہوپ اٹ ورکس. ہاں, تو ایکچولی نیو ہیمپشائر میں تو ابھی سی آئی وی ڈرگ یوزرس کی تو ہماری بہت ہی بڑی پرابلم ہے. تو HIV پاپولیشن ہماری اتنی زیادہ آئی وی ڈرگ یوزرس میں یہاں نہیں ہے, بٹ آئی واز ٹرینڈ ان سینٹر سٹی فلاڈیلفیا, اور وہاں پر ہمارے پاس جو اوور آل رجسٹرڈ HIV پیشنٹس تھے, they were about 2000 پیشنٹس, جس میں سے ایک بہت بڑا پرسنٹیج جو تھا وہ آئی وی ڈرگ یوزرس کا تھا. اور ہم اگر آئی ڈونٹ نو ہم اپنی آف کورس ریسورسز جتنی ہمارے پاس یہاں ہوتی ہیں ہم اس کو وہاں پر اپلائی نہیں کر سکتے, بٹ آئی تھنک آئی وی ڈرگ یوزرس کے ساتھ جو میجر پرابلم ہوتا ہے, فرسٹ آف آل دی آؤٹ ریچ اینڈ دین لنکیج. دیٹس دا میجر پرابلم کہ آپ نے آؤٹ ریچ کتنی ہے. جب ہیپسی کا بہت اگریسو ٹریٹمنٹ ہم نے شروع جب یہاں پر US میں ہوا تھا, جب ہمارے پاس کیوریٹو ٹریٹمنٹ آیا, تو ون آف مائی attending was basically a pioneer in like this outreach program. So they had these vans who would go into all those areas جہاں پر وہ HIV اور ہیپسی کے لیے اسکرین کرتے تھے ان پیشنٹس کو, and they would link them into care. And of course the counseling and the case managers and the case workers, all of those people play a major role in this treatment, and it have to be a team effort, you know. So that's what we have learned from here. So bas yahi hai کہ یہ ان کا جو of course that is the major problem. اور of course پھر KPK اور کوئٹہ, I mean not necessarily کوئٹہ but بلوچستان میں جو آؤٹ ریچ ہے وہ اور بڑا پرابلم ہے کہ آپ چھوٹے ایریاز میں کیسے ان تک ریچ آؤٹ کریں گے, اور پھر ان کو واپس کیسے لے کے آئیں گے ٹریٹمنٹ سینٹرز تک. آف کورس جیسے اگر ہم ان کو صرف ڈراپ ان ٹریٹمنٹ کرتے ہیں تو دیٹ از ون وے, بٹ ہاؤ ڈو یو مانیٹر, ہاؤ ڈو یو کیپ چیکنگ یور لیبز, وٹ ایور یو وانٹ ٹو چیک, ہاؤ ڈو یو میک شیور دیٹ دے آر کمپلائنٹ ود دیئر ٹریٹمنٹ. تو yeah.
Thank you very much, Nida.
But one more thing I want to say, that this was a very informative and eye-opening talk, and very inspiring as well. So thank you so much, Fiza and Saima, for the opportunity.
Welcome, Nida. Thank you for joining despite traveling.
May I say, Dr. Saima and Dr. Fiza, with your permission, may I say about HCV co-infection in IDUs?
Please.
جی میں نے یہ کوشچن بھی پوسٹ کیا تھا کہ ہاؤ ڈو وی اسکرین.
جی میری ابھی لاسٹ تھوڑے ٹائم پہلے ڈاکٹر عمیر صاحب سے بات ہوئی. ان کے والد صاحب کریٹیکل کیئر میں ہیں تو وہ شاید جوائن نہیں کر سکے. ہم ان کے والد صاحب کے لیے پریئرز کر رہے ہیں کہ اللہ انہیں صحت دے. ICU میں شفٹ ہوئے ہیں اور ان کی فیملی ممبرز کووڈ شاید پازیٹیو ہیں ڈاکٹر عمیر صاحب کے. لیکن جب ان سے ڈسکشن ہوئی HCV کے بارے میں تو یہ ان کے وہ ورڈ ہے, میں شاید کہیں یہ ڈیٹا دیکھ نہیں سکا ہوں کہ 90% آف دا IDUs آر انفیکٹڈ ود HCV کو انفیکشن اور HCV alone. یہ میرے خیال میں بڑا الارمنگ فگر ہے. انجیکٹنگ ڈرگ یوزرز میں 90% HCV کی اگر پریویلنس ہے with or without HIV co-infection.
Dr. Saiba, can I just add to it?
Yes, please, Dr.
Sir, agar aap meri presentation bhi dekh lein, it's just about IVDUs and HIV positive with co-infection. It's almost 46% even according to our data.
Yes,
and you're very rightly, it's even with our data, it's above 60% among the IVDUs.
Even if it is 40, yes, even if it is 46, still it is alarming. And they have the right to be treated for HCV either alone or with HIV.
And second
like
thing,
other, yes.
ڈاکٹر خدا صاحب, ہمارے ڈیٹا سے صرف آپ لوگوں کی نظر میں یہ بھی میں نے آپ کو ایک فگر کوٹ کیا کہ جو HIV کا پریولنس ہے جو بچوں میں ہے, ڈسپائٹ دا فیکٹ کہ IDUs بہت کم ہے, ان کی جو ڈرگ یوزرز میں جو HIV IDUs ہیں بچوں میں below 18, ان کی نمبر کافی کم ہے, بٹ ان میں پریولنس آف HIV بہت زیادہ ہے.
Yes.
And that cannot be directly linked with injectable use, but the behaviors and the abuses they go through. So you have to look at this side as well compared to the 16% among the adult IVDUs. Our data reveals it's about 32% over almost, that is 32% among the IVDUs, HIV prevalence among the children below 18. So that's something we have to look as well.
Now I think we have to stop. It's almost 2 hours. Thank you everyone for joining. A special thanks to Saima and Dr. Madali and Nida, Dr. Faisal, Dr. Bushra, Mr. Azazuddin, Dr. Khudadiat Khan. Maine kisi ko choda to nahi. And Mr. Wajid Ali. Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Saima, and thank you, Dada Sahab. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.